We had been married for 9 years when I realized I no longer knew how to tell the difference between trust and habit. Julia worked as an architect, and her job came with chaos built in: deadlines, client revisions, site visits that ran long. I'd gotten used to her calling at 8 p.m. to say, "Don't wait up, we're still at the office." That kind of life became normal. My dinners reheated, her laptop always humming on the couch beside her. It wasn't perfect, but it was ours. We didn't fight much. We didn't need to. We'd moved past the early years of proving things to each other, and we'd settled into something steady. I used to think that steadiness was love's highest form. Not fire, but structure. Then small cracks began to appear. One night, while cleaning the kitchen, I noticed her phone buzzing on the counter. The message preview flashed before it disappeared. "Same time tomorrow?" No name, just a number. I didn't check the rest, didn't even touch the phone. But something in my chest tightened in a way I hadn't felt in years. The next day, I told myself to forget it. People text about work all the time. But the thought stayed like a splinter. That weekend, she said, she had to meet a contractor at one of the projects she was overseeing. Saturday morning, 9 a.m., a quiet part of the city where a new housing complex was being built. "Don't wait for me," she said. "It might take a few hours." I nodded, poured my coffee, and watched her leave. By noon, I got a notification from our joint credit card, a charge at a restaurant near the river. Not a construction site. Not even close. I clicked the details. Lunch for two. Mid-range place. Nothing fancy, but intimate. That was the first time I wrote something down. Just a single line in a small notebook I'd once used for grocery lists. Saturday said site visit. Lunch charge, 12:37 p.m., Riverside Cafe. It didn't feel like betrayal yet. It felt like research. After that, I noticed more. Her clothes changed first, not dramatically, but intentionally. A new blazer, sharper lines, different perfume. She started putting on lipstick before client meetings. I told her she looked beautiful. She smiled, said, "You always say that," and kissed my cheek. Then there were the calls. At first, she took them at home, pacing the hallway, muttering about materials and permits. Then she started stepping out onto the balcony, closing the sliding door behind her. Her voice, once easy and professional, softened in a way I hadn't heard in a long time. I asked once, carefully, "Everything okay with that new client?" She nodded quickly, eyes still on her phone. "Just demanding. You know how they get." I didn't know. I just also knew when someone was lying by omission. The next week, a charge appeared for a boutique hotel downtown. "Business expense," she said when I asked about it. The client booked a presentation space there. It sounded reasonable, plausible, even. But something about the way she said presentation made me write it down. Thursday, hotel charge. Said presentation. A few nights later, she left for another late meeting. I happened to walk by her desk and saw a folded note tucked into her planner. Just 3 words. "Can't stop thinking." No name. No context. Just that. I didn't touch it again. I didn't need to. My heart had already filled in the missing parts. Still, I didn't confront her. Not yet. Instead, I started watching the pattern. When she said, "Site visit," I checked the GPS tracker that came with our car insurance. Some nights, it showed her near the firm. Other nights, not even close. One evening, I saw her location sitting still for 3 hours at a small hotel near the edge of downtown. Not the same one as before, but the same kind of place. I wrote it down. After that, every conversation we had felt scripted. She'd ask about my day, and I'd answer in small words, trying not to look like someone holding a secret. I didn't want to accuse without proof. I also didn't want to keep living like an idiot. I started listening differently. The tone of her voice when she said, "We." The pauses before she said, "Just work." The way she lingered in the mirror before leaving. One night, she came home later than usual, after midnight. I'd pretended to be asleep, but I watched her from the corner of my eye as she changed. She took off her heels quietly, smiled at herself in the dark mirror, and slipped into bed smelling of wine and someone else's cologne. I could have asked then. I could have said, "Who is he?" But instead, I turned my face toward the wall. The next morning, she made coffee and said, "Long day ahead," like nothing had happened. I nodded. "Yeah, you too." That was the day I decided to stop pretending this was about paranoia. It wasn't. It was about survival. I began to keep better records. Every lie came with a date, time, location. If love had been the architecture of our marriage, this notebook became the blueprint of its collapse. Then, one night, she said she had to attend a late client dinner. "The investors are flying in from Chicago," she said, adjusting her necklace in the mirror. "Could be a late one." I smiled. "Take your time." When she left, I opened the notebook, flipped to the next blank page, and wrote only one sentence. "If she lies tonight, it ends tomorrow." Then I grabbed my keys and waited 15 minutes before following. I didn't know what I expected to find. Maybe another restaurant, another hotel, another scene that would confirm what my gut already knew. But I knew one thing for certain. The next page of the notebook would no longer be written from memory. I was going to see it with my own eyes. I waited 10 minutes before leaving. Long enough for her to be sure she was alone, short enough to keep her taillights in sight. The streets were slick from rain, and every red light felt like it existed just to test my resolve. She drove with the confidence of someone who believed she was unseen, calm, smooth, not glancing in the mirror once. She didn't head toward the firm. Not even close. Her car turned toward the west side of the city, where the streets get quieter, the lights dimmer, and the hotels start to appear between stretches of empty lots. My heart thudded harder with every turn. Finally, she slowed in front of the Sterling Hotel, not fancy, but private. A place that hides in plain sight. She parked under a tree, checked her reflection in the mirror, and got out. Then another car pulled in 2 minutes later. A man stepped out. I didn't recognize him right away, but when he moved closer, I knew. Ryan, one of her colleagues, the project manager she'd mentioned a few times. I remembered his name because she'd laughed once, saying, "Ryan could sell an ice cube to a polar bear." He was carrying a small bag and a folder. Props, I realized. Things that could look professional if anyone asked. She smiled when she saw him. Not the polite smile she used at work, not the tired one she gave me at night, but something bright and alive. She reached out, touched his arm, and for a moment they just stood there, smiling at each other like two people who'd been waiting all day for this single minute. He put his hand on her lower back, and they walked inside together. The revolving door spun once, then swallowed them both. I didn't move. The rain softened to a drizzle, tapping against the windshield. My fingers ached from holding the steering wheel too tightly. I didn't need to see anything else. I wrote one line in the notebook on the passenger seat. Thursday, 8:42 p.m. Sterling Hotel. Ryan. It was all I needed. The line might as well have been a signature on the end of our marriage. I sat there another 20 minutes before driving home. No music. No thoughts. Just the mechanical rhythm of wipers across glass, the pulse of the tires against wet pavement. I felt calm, in the way a house feels quiet after it burns down. When I got home, I left the lights off. The apartment was still, suspended between truth and the moment it had to be spoken. I sat at the kitchen table, notebook open, waiting. She came home at 11:30. Her hair was a little tangled from the rain. She kicked off her shoes and smiled when she saw me, that same careful smile that used to mean warmth and now just looked like muscle memory. "You're up late," she said. "Couldn't sleep." She hesitated, studying me. "You okay?" I nodded toward the notebook. "We need to talk." Her eyes followed my gesture. When she saw the open page, the color drained from her face. She didn't even try to pick it up. She knew. "You followed me," she said. "I watched," I corrected softly. The silence that followed stretched like a wire between us. "You saw me," she whispered. "Yes." She sat down slowly, the chair legs scraping against the tile. "It wasn't supposed to happen," she said. Her voice trembled, not from guilt, but from the collapse of pretense. "At first, it was just work, late nights, meetings, deadlines. We got close. I didn't think it meant anything. But it did," I said. She nodded, eyes shining. "Yes, it did. And I didn't stop it. I told myself you were too busy, that we'd grown apart, that I deserved to feel wanted. All the stupid things people say to themselves when they start breaking something they swore to protect." Her words were steady, but her face looked 10 years older than it had an hour ago. "How long?" I asked. 5 months, she whispered. "Maybe 6. That's how long we've been planning our anniversary trip. How long she'd been promising that once this project ended, we'd have time again. I wanted to ask why him, but I didn't. I already knew the answer. It wasn't about him. It was about her. About the thrill of being seen by someone new, the escape from the life she helped build. She reached across the table, hand trembling. "I'm sorry. I know that doesn't fix anything, but I need you to hear it." I looked at her hand. Once, I would have taken it without thinking. Now it felt like a stranger's. "You could have told me," I said quietly. "You could have been honest before it got this far." "I was afraid," she said. "Afraid you'd stop loving me." I shook my head. "You stopped loving me first." Tears filled her eyes, but I didn't move to comfort her. I'd spent months comforting a lie. Finally I stood. "You should pack a bag." She blinked. "You want me to leave?" "Yes," I said. "Tonight." She didn't argue. She didn't beg. She just nodded and walked toward the bedroom, shoulders heavy, steps small. The sound of the zipper on her suitcase filled the silence. It was the sound of endings. Not sudden, not loud, just final. When she came back out, she stood by the door. "I never meant to hurt you," she said. I looked at her, really looked at her, the woman I had loved for nearly a decade, the woman who once felt like home. "You didn't mean to get caught," I said. "Hurting me was part of it." She flinched, but didn't argue. "Goodbye," she whispered. "Goodbye." The door closed behind her, and for the first time in months, I felt something close to peace. Not happiness, not relief, just the stillness that follows truth. The weeks after passed like a slow storm moving away. I canceled the trip we'd planned, closed the joint account, packed her things into boxes, and left them by the door for her sister to collect. The apartment echoed differently now, fewer footsteps, fewer lies. Friends asked questions I didn't answer. Family offered sympathy I didn't need. What I needed was silence. Time. Space to remember how to exist without suspicion. One afternoon, I took the notebook, the one that had held every entry, every small proof, and read it from the beginning. The first line, Saturday lunch charge. The last, Thursday, 8:42 p.m. Sterling Hotel. Ryan. Between them was an entire collapse written in calm handwriting. I tore out the pages one by one, fed them into the shredder, and watched the paper disappear into ribbons. The sound was mechanical, cleansing. Then I took a new notebook from the drawer, empty, unlined, and wrote a single sentence on the first page. Truth hurts once. Lies hurt every day. Months later, I ran into Ryan by accident. A grocery store. He looked smaller than I remembered, his eyes heavy. He avoided mine, pretended to check his phone. I walked past him without slowing down. Whatever power he had was gone the second she walked out that door. That night, I passed by the Sterling Hotel on my way home. Its golden letters gleamed the same as ever. People walked in, laughing, hopeful. I didn't feel bitterness, just distance. At home, I opened the window, let the night air in, and sat at the kitchen table where everything had fallen apart. It didn't feel haunted anymore. It felt honest. I poured myself a drink, wrote a grocery list on the next page of the notebook, and smiled a little. The marriage ended with her lies. My life didn't. It began again, quieter, cleaner, built this time on truth that didn't need proof.